Doesn't it seem like if there was a Democrat wave, that there would be some evidence for it besides where it exists? And where does it exist? Where does it exist that the Democrats are going to retake everything? In the polling data. It exists in polling data. Do we believe that? Democrats are on a roll. Many Republicans, because they live in Washington, happen to believe polling data, so they kind of fall in line on this. Isn't evidence of a Democrat wave, but that's all there is to suggest there's going to be one. Meanwhile, on the ground in Realville, the Democrats aren't doing anything to inspire anybody. They can't even inspire their own side. Time sports, audiences are being driven away. My second question, real State of the Union speeches tomorrow night. And I have an idea for what it ought to be. Now here's would it offend you if I said that what Trump has to do tomorrow night is to show that he doesn't have horns coming out of his head? He has to show and demonstrate that he's not an ogre. He disrespects women, that he's not an idiot and not a moron. Would it offend you if I said that's what Trump's primary objective tomorrow night is? I did actually say this. A Republican actually said that on TV. I'm paraphrasing it. They're on the defense, and they still think they have to prove and demonstrate they're not what the left accuses them of being. And that Trump's primary objective has to be to show that he's not the moron, the idiot, the ogre, and the guy who tweets in bed. Realize that's a major controversy story today. Trump admitted he sometimes tweets in bed. Reuters can't believe it, and it's another major controversy. What? He tweets in bed? Which is worse, tweeting from the bathroom or tweeting in bed? Speaking of Twitter, folks, I have to tell you something. The New York Times put on their website late Saturday, published in their newspaper on Sunday, one of the most phenomenal stories. Now, I know on record as having said many times that my instinctive reaction to anything in the New York Times is not to believe it. A very, very long story. I would recommend that you read this story on your computer so that you can benefit and experience the amazing graphics that they use to illustrate the point. And the point of the story is that you, anybody, can buy followers on Twitter and Facebook, human beings, and have them reported as following you. The names of people who have done this are listed in the story. They run from actors to athletes to pundits to journalists. Bots. You know, I found a lot of people, when I say a Twitter bot, Facebook bot, so what is that? Well, the easiest way to explain it, it's just the creator wants it to be triggered by. It's called a robot or a bot because there's no real person behind it. It's made to look like an actual human being with a Twitter account, but no human being exists. It's I, and others are just manufactured out of whole cloth. There's an actor mentioned here in this story, and the number one company selling these bots is right here in West Palm Beach, above Rocco's Tacos on Clematis Street. Makes people think that his office is in Manhattan. It's exceedingly cheap. You can buy 100,000 followers for $10. This means is that very little is real on Twitter. I've shared with you on countless occasions, we have run up against this procedure, this technique, trying to damage our business here. And we have found out in our investigation and research exactly how it happens. In our case, it was 10 people who were flooding our advertisers with massive amounts of emails made to look like it was coming from tens of thousands of people. And it was 10 people creating fake Twitter users. You to knowingly go out and purchase followers. It has millions of followers. The likelihood is it is nowhere near true. Why followers are purchased. Look at how often the drive-by media quotes Twitter in every story they do. How many times have you heard in reaction to a story, Twitter is melting down? And you are being led to believe that story happens, whatever it is, and on Twitter there is this massive reaction to it, either positive or negative. And then you are further led to believe that story is huge and that millions of Americans have an opinion on it. Why would the New York Times be doing this? It's very clear to me. The New York Times damage your enemies, business opponents, political enemies, personal enemies. Because you can create fake bots and you can make it look like a person is literally despised and hated. When they on this social, no, not everything, so much of what social media is fake. So much of it is unearned. So much of it is the result of shortcuts. This because they're fed up with Twitter having more influence than they do. The New York Times is the paper of record. The New York Times is the media of record. I mean, it is a long story. It has many different writers and reporters on it. The evidence is pretty clear. Know that this stuff happens. Now, by the way, I have to tell you, I did not know, and I'm happy admitting it. It made me sound like I'm a bit naive. I did not know you could buy followers. A lot of people have found out you can buy followers. You realize the power of that, folks? Let's say you're a B actor or a B pundit. Streaming hasn't grown that much yet. But yet there's